Hello, this is the fifth in a series of videos from Planar World Consulting about some of the pragmatic realities you should keep in mind in taking your organization global. This fifth focuses on a topic that's more often overlooked than not and is probably as critical to your success in another country as any other focus you might have, and that is, what is the perspective of your in-country colleagues? Why do they want to work with you? What are their expectations? What are they hoping to gain for your industry in their country by working with your association to go global? There's at least 4 considerations to keep in mind with this, and these are taken from one of my German colleagues who I worked with for many years in my former trade association. And I asked my good friend and colleague, what were the things that you considered would most help the in-country efforts if the American organization was able to provide him? And he was very forthcoming and very straightforward and very quick in his response in identifying these 4 things, which I'd like to share with you now. The first was, is your organization relevant for that country? Is there a need? This takes into account competitive situations with other nonprofits and for-profit organizations in country, but is there a niche? Is there a need that your organization can fulfill in another country that makes it relevant to the professionals in your industries in that country? And my colleague from Germany listed this as a first consideration. What I found in looking at a lot of associations and talking with a lot of people is education and research are often at the top of the list that are respected by way of what benchmarks and information American organizations can offer our colleagues around the world. The second thing to keep in mind from an in-country perspective and expectation is, if the organization is going global, then your colleagues in other countries look for your organization to be truly global. As I've heard many associations talk about going global in terms of revenue and membership growth, those are honorable goals and strategic initiatives, but not enough in and of themselves to sustain success on the international level. We must, as much as we possibly can, get away from a purely American-centric view of our industry, because if we are going global, good ideas come from everywhere, as you've heard me say several times in previous videos. But it's an important consideration because not only do our colleagues around the world want their ideas and thinking to be recognized, but more often than not, they want them to be acted upon. And the idea of having a truly global perspective, of being inclusive of all global colleagues, regardless of their location, regardless of the type of organization they are with or the size of their organization, or if a professional society, whatever laws and regulations they work under for your industry in that country. These are all things that we must, as much as we possibly and reasonably can, keep a truly global perspective, because our international colleagues are looking to us to do that if, in fact, as we tell them, we are looking to go global. Another thing by way of in-country perspective and expectations is, you may be intimately familiar with your programming domestically and the goals and your administrative process from a governance and from a programming standpoint, but this is largely brave new world for colleagues internationally that are choosing to work with you to undertake similar goals and similar programming. So especially in the beginning, with the different patterns and stages of growth and development, there's a fair amount of time to be focused on administrative support, administrative help, as well as establishing reporting mechanisms so that you can objectively chart the progress of an international effort for your organization. But there's a lot of questions about how I do this, or does this information exist? And as much as you can establish guidelines up front and document them, the easier it makes it for your international colleagues to initiate success in another country. And lastly, and potentially one of the most sensitive issues in going global for an American organization, but which time and again I've seen as an expectation, if not an empowerment and a right required and expected by international colleagues, and I might add, appropriately so, is since good ideas come from everywhere, and since there is good knowledge today from everywhere around the world, recognized more than ever, at some point, your international colleagues look for an equal voice in strategical and policy setting for decision making with your organization. If you can take that into account in your upfront planning, and if you can speak with your expectations and glean the expectations of your international colleagues and set a timeline and a plan that there is a consensus of agreement on how to approach ultimate governance for a global organization, the sooner you can do that, the closer to the front end of your efforts of going global you can do that, the smoother and stronger your efforts will be through time. So I offer these 4 considerations from one of my global colleagues, an in-country perspective, in the 5th and final video series on pragmatic realities of taking your organization globally. Thanks very much.